Hello and welcome back to NoBS. Today we return to talking about two prominent and important figures in modern days. I'm of course talking about the Joe Rogan versus Joe Biden controversy. That's right, these two Joes have been kind of sneakily going after each other. Well, basically in one direction. We've talked about how Joe Rogan has commented on Biden previously. We previously had a video where he thought he was mentally incapable to lead. He said a few other things just commenting on the very, very not so good look that Joe Biden's been giving off. You can clearly see his mental acuity is declining, and Joe Rogan openly commented on that, and that's normally not a big deal. You know, people talk about that all the time. It's pretty obvious. It's pretty apparent. You got evidence out there for it. But for Joe Rogan, he's a big, very prominent podcast, a very important figure in internet culture, and he's also kind of like with politics. He has a lot of political people on his show. He tends to lean a little bit left wing, but he's also mostly center based, like he's very much in the middle. He's open to hearing both sides. That's why many of us like him, but that's also why the left attacks him. They can't stand when he's honest and speaks out against their side, which happens pretty often, especially in this Biden versus Trump campaign. We're of course in election season. The president is running for re-election against Biden. If you hadn't heard, wake up, get out from under that rock. But yeah, basically just kidding. But for now, let's talk about this Rogan quote. I first heard of it on this tweet from the first. It says, Biden to me is like having a flashlight with a dying battery, quoted from Joe Rogan. Apparently in a recent podcast this came up. We'll get to more details in maybe a video soon, but right out the gate, I mean, this is pretty good analogy. It's pretty apparent that Biden is on his last leg. He's not like a fully charged flashlight with fresh batteries and a new bulb. You know, he's not like a flashlight you just got at the store or ordered on Amazon. You know, like I know they sell them at Costco. You can get like those packs of like a multiple LED flashlights. And when they start off, they're really bright. They start off very bright and strong, and slowly over time, the batteries drain. And that's actually the thing that happens with these newer LED lights. Like instead of just having one level of light, which seems to be how the older ones would work. Like if the battery was working, you just had one level of light. But with the LED lights, they start to dim. And like by the end of the battery, it'll still work a little bit, but it's way dimmer than the beginning. And that's something I've noticed having lots of new LED lights around my house. And people are noticing that as a trend recently. LED lights are a new kind of trend, but that's besides the point. I'm getting sidetracked. I love LED lights, but yeah, it goes along with this analogy. You know, a flashlight with a dying battery, it starts to come off really weak. It has, you know, a lower level of light. And this seems like Joe Biden. Joe Biden is very old. He's almost 80. By the time the election happens, he'll be 80. And he's just, you know, he's not a good looking 80. He's not like a young, kind of viral, you know, kind of excited, like still lots of energy 80. No, he's like an 80 that looks 90. He acts like it. He can barely speak. He can't form coherent sentences. He can't keep his facts straight. He forgets where he is. It's just really hard to watch. And I think Joe Biden is just, you know, the worst candidate. And it sucks because that's the best the Democrats could do. And that's why people like Joe Rogan are speaking out. He's just an honest guy. He's got his own platform, his own thing. He has no boss. So it's hard to cancel him, but they're definitely trying. That's why we're talking about this story more. The leftists are definitely triggered by this recent comment. As you can see here, this is another article with more details. It says, leftists are outraged at Joe Rogan's latest Biden comments. Article from Buck Sexton. And yeah, it says here, Sexton played the video of Joe Rogan's simple yet profound repudiation to Joe Biden's candidacy this week, as he can be heard saying, Biden to me is like having a flashlight with a dying battery and going for a long walk in the woods. It is not going to work out. It's not going to make it. Triggering the left even more was the fact that President Trump posted the video to both Twitter and Facebook for millions of his followers to enjoy and repost themselves. Rogan is a comedian and UFC commentator who has been wildly popular since starting his podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience, in 2009. Yeah, that was really groundbreaking for him. I can't believe it's been 11 years because I definitely remember when it first came out. I remember originally listening to the Joe Rogan podcast on just an iPod, like iPhone podcast. You know, it was originally just audio, and then he started streaming on different sites. I remember he was on different ones even before YouTube had streaming, before he posted video on YouTube. There was a lot of phases of the show, and I appreciate where he's gone. He's gotten really big off of it. It's kind of similar to stuff that I tried. Like, he was something that inspired me to start a show. My original internet show was a podcast too, and then I switched over to YouTube as well. So there's similar paths there. I'm obviously not nearly as significant or popular, but gosh darn it, I think we're doing great, and I appreciate you guys supporting us because we're certainly doing well enough. But obviously Joe Rogan's a superstar. He was famous before this internet career. He was famous for being on TV shows and hosting stuff and doing stand-up comedy. So it's a whole different thing. But yeah, I'm just saying, my point is similar paths. Joe Rogan is a great inspiration to me. Good to see him speaking out and speaking his mind and not being afraid of the left-wing outrage mob. We know that they are vicious. They would love to cancel Joe if they could. I'm sure his sponsors have already been called at least a few times because that's just how the left works. They expect everyone to kowtow to them, especially celebrities and people kind of in their circles. Like, Joe isn't like a Hollywood type necessarily, but he lived and worked in LA for many years. He's certainly, a celebrity, and he's part of it. He's just not in the hierarchy, in the system. He does his own thing and he's more independent. And that's why we get strong, very fitting quotes like what we're talking about today. And I love that Trump shared it. That's awesome too. Trump is the best at social media. He does a really good job of staying in tune with the people, knowing what to share, knowing who to like. Joe Rogan's a great choice, a good centrist that's on his side and showing that it's not just far right people like exaggerating the stuff about Biden. Like, it's true. Other people can see it. If Joe Rogan could see it, lots of other leftists will see it too. Like, don't forget, he is pretty liberal. And I don't say that as a bad thing. Like, I don't hate all liberals. It might seem like that sometimes, but there's a lot of good ones out there. There's a lot of good ones that are reasonable, rational. They take policies and ideas from both sides. And Rogan is definitely one of them. He's got these ideas and, he has his own thing too. He has differences between us, people on the more right-wing conservative side, but that's cool because he's also able to speak out and call out his own and say, hey, Joe Biden is like a weak flashlight, dude. You're going to be scared going into the woods with him. And saying that, thinking about the quote again, I mean, yeah, think about it. Going into the woods is similar to what we're dealing with this year, what America deals with every year. We're the biggest superpowered country. We have the biggest military in the world. We defend a lot of the Western modern world. If it wasn't for us having this big military and these weapons on call and having this defense mechanism, a lot of our allies wouldn't be where they are today. That's the thing that some people don't realize. Like, there's a reason why Canada and Europe and Australia can afford to have like free healthcare, as they call it. I mean, it's really tax-funded healthcare, but you got to ask yourselves, why do those countries have more money for healthcare? Well, it's pretty obvious if you think about it and you think about the world and self-defense and international politics. Well, America picks up a lot of the slack as far as military defense. We have a lot of people under our wing besides just our states and our citizens. We defend Canada is at our border. They're a strong ally. We're friends with England, who we saved from World War II. We're friends with Australia, who has their own thing going on. And our defense mechanisms help them, and it gives them ammo and gives them more resources to do that free healthcare that they call it that way. I know it's not really free, but that's how they can afford that healthcare, is because America has the biggest military in the world. So after all that said, that's a little sidetrack. Let's see if we could check out the actual video.
Biden to me is like having a flashlight with a dying battery and going for a long hike in the woods. It is not going to work out. It's not going to make it.
You have Joe Rogan here. That was an old clip that the president tweeted out, so it's getting a lot more attention. Joe Rogan, who's a Democrat, or I guess people would say he's an independent, but he liked Bernie Sanders, so he's clearly a man ideologically of the left.
Okay, this looks like another channel reporting on it. Buck Sexton seems to have great work. That's cool too, if you guys want to check that out. And also, like he said, this clip appears to be from a while back, but it's resurfacing now because Trump retweeted it, Trump shared the video, and it's just getting more attention. And it's still true, it still has a lot of truth to it. It reflects on the way things are going with Biden. I mean, it was probably just said a few weeks ago or in a podcast earlier this year, but I like to hear it from Joe Rogan right there because it shows the humor to it. Like, it's giving it a humorous take. It's like a joke version. That's why he's saying that whole analogy. And that's what's cool about analogies is like, they have a little laugh to them, and they also give you another way to think about things to show you how it is in another situation, in another comparison. And And the other thing I really like is, the flashlight and the woods thing. It's like going into the woods is scary. Without a flashlight, I mean, God forbid, like it's hard enough to go out there in the world. But then imagine if Biden was the world leader, like he's the top of the United States and he's barely even there. He's quickly going to be taken over by his Democratic overlords. Like God forbid, like Kamala Harris comes into office next. Like it's going to be a mess if we go with Biden. Like that's the bigger, greater point with this whole story and everything going on. It's just, Biden is not going to be a good look for America. He's going to disgrace the office. He's not going to be strong. He's going to cave in. He's going to actually represent China probably more than America. He's a very, very pro-China person. So it's almost like electing this foreign adversary to run our country for 4 years and give power to this group of people who just aren't deserving of it. Trump is the stronger candidate. He has his stuff together. He's been doing as well as he can for the last year with all this drama. And before that, we were doing amazing. Everything was great up until this 2020 disaster, and things started going crazy, mostly because of the election stuff. Like that's the big deal, is that the election spiked things up, and that's where we are now. And it's good to see people like Joe Rogan speaking out, Buck Sexton here sharing this video, the first website also giving us more information. So with that said, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure you comment your thoughts on everything below. Did you see this original podcast? Are you a fan of Joe Rogan or this quote that he gave about Joe Biden? What do you think about the election predictions? Do you think Biden has any chance of winning? Is it going to be close? Is it going to be a landslide like that song from Fleetwood Mac? Tell me what you think in the comments. Also, hit that like button. It really helps this video get shared when you press like. Also, you can subscribe if you're new, hit the bell for notifications. And in addition, we have new postings on our Facebook page. If you go to facebook.com/nobullshitvideos, you can find it there, or click the link below this video. Thanks for your time. Have a great day and a pleasant tomorrow.